Open up. Well, we got Israel Adesanya, Marvin Vettori, minus 240 for the champ. Israel Adesanya, plus 200 for Marvin Vettori. Much more appropriate betting line, if you ask me. But we have a question off the top, AJ. Let me move this down a little bit. This is from our boy Psych, man. So shout out to you, man. I always love the questions. He says, if Israel wins, who's next? Do we get a Robert Whittaker rematch, or do you think Robert Whittaker can get it done? So let me take this off the board, AJ. I'm gonna let you answer that forum question first, my man. What do you think?
Who's next, and is it Rob? I don't think Rob can get it done, and I don't think Rob wants that smoke, to be completely honest with you, Derek. I do think he was offered this fight and he turned it down. Who gets Israel Adesanya next? I'm gonna throw a curveball at you, my brother, and I'm going Kelvin Gastelum. I think Kelvin Gastelum gave Izzy the hardest fight of his life. I think Kelvin Gastelum stepped in against replaced Paulo Costa in his next fight. So we're going to see, man, if Kelvin Gastelum could get it done, get a good win against,
It's Jared Cannonier.
Jared Cannonier, thank you. Jared Cannonier. If he can do that, I think that's a good fight, because Cannonier was easily slotted to go and fight the champ, at least here soon. If Kelvin Gastelum can do that, I think it was a good rematch. And like I said, he gave him the hardest fight of so far we've seen, besides obviously Jan Blachowicz, but it's a different weight division. I don't really want to count that one. So I'm going Kelvin Gastelum, kind of a left field pick for me. Who you got and why?
Well, I'm gonna say, let's answer the question for myself too, right? Is Robert Whittaker next? I say yes. And the reason why is because he's the clear number one contender. You know what I mean? I think the only reason that Robert Whittaker isn't in this fight, I think the only reason Marvin Vettori is here is because Israel Adesanya said, I want to fight in June. Robert Whittaker literally just fought 2 months ago, a 5-round fight with Kelvin Gastelum. And though it was a clean sweep, right? It's not really enough time. You know what I'm saying? The man needs a little more time. Call it ducking, call it running, call it whatever you want. But I am very confident that Robert Whittaker would give Israel Adesanya a real deal test this time around, man. I don't think that he'll go lunging in all crazy like he did before, just trying to get his hands on Israel Adesanya. I think he'll learn from his lessons. Let's not forget, the man is a former champ, dude. This dude was literally the king of the division, right? So I think that Robert Whittaker can get it done. If they fought 10 times, does he win 10 times? No. Does he win 8 times? No. Did he win 5 times? Probably not. I think that I'll give him like 3 out of 10 times. But 3 out of 10 times is more than 0 out of 10 times. And with that being said, I honestly believe that he has a real chance to upset, given the opportunity once again. However, I will say I'm going to throw in a little bit of a curveball as well, AJ, just because we always hear Adesanya say, you know who I would love, even if he got the light heavyweight title, he's like, you know who I would go down back for? Darren Till. I would love to fight Darren Till. So let Darren Till get healthy, let him rack up a couple wins, and let's see when the next time Israel Adesanya fights, because who's to say? UFC is a crazy business, man. If there's one thing that I've learned is that the guy who rightfully deserves to fight for the title next doesn't always get it, man, because there's no such thing as deserved in the UFC. So with that being said, questions aside, let's break this one down, AJ. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I told you this is not the people's main event, in my opinion. This is a fight. And I can't say much more about it. I have very strong feelings on this one, but I don't have much to say. So with that being said, Israel Adesanya, death by 1,000 feints. Once again, he killed Marvin Vettori with 1,000,000 feints. I watched the fight back. Marvin Vettori won 1 round in that fight. He won round 3. Please, if you feel different, please stop me. He won 1 round. Israel Adesanya won rounds 1. Rounds 1 and 2. He outstruck him in rounds 1 and 2. He got outstruck in round 3. But at the end of the day, man, Marvin Vettori on the feet has very little to offer for Israel Adesanya. His one saving grace, the one area where Marvin Vettori truly can win the fight. And this is what I was talking with folks. We have an interview out with Kai Bennett. By the time this episode is out, it should be out on the channel. Definitely go give us some love. It's an hour-plus long interview, man. Full in-depth. We really go down into her last win, and plus some UFC 263 picks too. So that's what I was doing with her. So go check it out, folks. But with that being said, she said she could very likely see Marvin Vettori upsetting. She said 65% and the rest, Marvin Vettori could get it done. And let's be honest. Israel Adesanya, he got smothered against Jan Blachowicz in terms of the grappling, but Jan Blachowicz is the champion 20 pounds above Israel Adesanya's weight class, man. Like, that's not the same thing as Marvin Vettori. With that being said, though, I mean, just what do you think, man? Give me some thoughts on this one, AJ. I can't be the only one sitting here hating. You know what I'm saying?
No, man, I ain't. I'm not going to be hating on Marvin. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I like the strikers. I was not impressed with Marvin's last victory or his last fight in general at all. But can he get it done? I don't know. The last fight they had, I agree. He won the 3rd round, but I think it's only because Israel Adesanya took it off He won the first two, and he thought, oh, I'm going to coast a little bit. I'm going to do this. And he got outstruck, which I did not expect at all to see coming from Israel Adesanya. But again, how long ago was that? At least 5-6 years. I don't know the exact data on my notes, but it's an older time, as well as Israel Adesanya just coming off of the Jan Blachowicz loss. I think he learned a lot, man. There's nothing worse than getting your face rubbed in the dirt, especially in front of a live crowd, or in front of a TV audience, excuse me. So I definitely think Israel Adesanya kind of took that, put a little chip on his shoulder, and he's going to be working the wrestling. Old Marvin, angry Marvin, this dude he's not planning on going out and standing and banging. We've already seen that happen. Marvin's going to go out there, go shoot for the takedown. And Israel Adesanya kind of knows where that game plan's going. And with the city kickboxing team he has, I don't really think it's going to be much of an issue for him to at least be working it as much as he needs to be. Now, can I be completely proven wrong? 100%. Marvin could easily take this dude down, outweigh Israel Adesanya on game day, which was when it really matters. The weigh-in before, okay, cool, you made weight. Now the game day, you outweigh him by 20 pounds again. We've seen Jan Blachowicz outweigh somebody where it matters in the wrestling and actually make a big difference. Where I hate bringing up this fight, but the Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather, we saw that weight didn't really matter in boxing anyway. I mean, it does. Don't get me wrong. You fight a dude who's 200 pounds heavier than you, yeah, he's going to hurt you. But if you're that same level, when levels meet, they're at the pinnacle of the sport. Weight in wrestling matters, boxing not so much. And if Israel Adesanya can keep the distance and their weights come somewhat the same, I think the levels are just going to shine. So that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah, man. I think skill-wise, you know what I mean? It's just two different levels of opposition. I'm right there 100% with you. And for the context, when they fought, it was Israel Adesanya's second UFC fight. He was not a champion, clearly, you know what I mean? And Marvin Vettori was his fifth UFC fight. And since then, Marvin Vettori, this is a cool stat, man, and I agree. Since that loss, Marvin Vettori has only lost one of his 17 rounds that he's fought since fighting and losing to Israel Adesanya. So he's been on a rampage. This dude's on, a 5-fight win streak. And I asked Kai Bennett, I said, hey, man, if you wrestle your way to a championship, do you respect that? And she was like, well, listen, man, in a championship fight, that is the one time where your goal is to win. You're going home with that belt. It doesn't matter. You can experiment all you want in all the other fights. In the championship fight, you have one job to do, and you do it however it needs to get done. So with that being said, man, even though Marvin Vettori is kind of plodding offensively, this dude's grappling is legit. There's no way to go around that. You can't disrespect it or discount it. He's a BJJ brown belt, second longest average fight time at 185, third most significant strikes at 185. But let me tell you this, AJ, Israel Adesanya tied for Chris Weidman with the second longest win streak at 9 at the middleweight division, and the second most title fight wins with 4 in UFC middleweight history. History, not actively. History, all fighters. So with that being said, like I said, a little bit different levels. I will say Israel Adesanya, he had a lot of success with the calf kicks against Marvin Vettori, man. I think that he's going to go back to the well on those ones, man. The feints, the calf kicks. He missed on a couple big shots, right? But Marvin Vettori, I'll tell you one thing he has honed is his left cross out of that southpaw stance, man. He's honed that one. And if he lands that one, he could get you backing up, man. He can get you in trouble. And if he connects on that one and then gets you on the ground, man, it's going to be a long night. And there's nothing that we want to see less than 5 rounds of wrestling and a title fight. But if that's what it comes down to, the only people who are going to be mad are the fans. Because Marvin Vettori is saying, I'm the first Italian champ, 6-fight win streak. And hey, I got the belt, so you guys can fuck off, right? So it's going to be a matchup, right? But I agree with the betting line, -240 Israel Adesanya, +200 for Marvin Vettori. I think that Marvin Vettori has to fight a flawless fight if he wants to upset. And that leads me to my pick, Israel Adesanya. And still, I think that it's going to be a decision victory, AJ. Let me just tell you, Marvin Vettori, he is the first fighter in mixed martial arts to take Israel Adesanya to a judge's decision in his career. He was 13-0 with 13 KOs prior to when they fought. Marvin Vettori has never been finished in his career, man. He's a tough motherfucker, bro. This dude is tough. And for that reason, even though Israel Adesanya's game plan is slow cook him in the first, fry him in the second, I think you're going to have to go all 5 rounds with the Italian dream, my man. Who's your pick and why?
Yeah, I'm actually right with you, Derek. I'm going Israel Adesanya, and I'm debating. I can 100% see a decision, but I'm going KO round 4. I definitely think it's going to go a little slow in the beginning, going to kind of wind up. Marvin's going to be shooting for takedowns all day long. I don't know if he'll actually land one, but it's going to get each other tired. And that being said, Marvin's a little bit bigger, a little more muscle, a little more lactic acid in those muscles. I think he's getting a little tired, leading to Adesanya getting that KO in the round 4. but this could easily go to a decision. Don't get me wrong. Marvin could get that takedown, drag it out, win a couple rounds, and we're seeing him, 48-47 in the 5th. We'll see where it goes. But I got Israel Adesanya, KO, round 4. I'm excited for it.
Well, there we go, folks. So that is the UFC